did all this come to light then, Karin? Because one thing that comes out as you read the story this morning is that this is an investigation that has perhaps been running for quite a long time.
Yeah, it came out more or less by accident, actually. My colleague Jake in the US, he spotted some filing in US court docket in a litigation between Carahsoft, the big reseller of software to government, and the government, who wanted a document from Carahsoft, and they apparently didn't comply fully, or at least in the view of the government, didn't comply fully with the order. And then litigation started in court, and in that litigation, this probe was mentioned, and SAP was also mentioned.
What do we know about where the investigation stands?
We don't really know how long this has been going on. That's kind of one of the big questions, and how big the volume of contracts that are touched are. But we do know that in 2 years ago, in about June 2022, this struggle between Carahsoft and the government over handing over documents started. That's when the order came out, and that's when the litigation started. So that's so far what we know. What we also know is that on Tuesday there was a big raid of Carahsoft, and we don't really know it was related to this probe, but Carahsoft said it was related to an investigation into a company which with Carahsoft was doing a business. So it's that's what we know at the moment.
Yeah, and the SAP share price then down 3.8% this morning. What are the risks for the business?
Well, being in trouble with the US authority isn't exactly fun. They aren't shy of imposing hefty fines. A lot of German companies have experienced that. So I'm sure investors are a bit concerned about that. In these kind of price-fixing probes, the government, under the US laws, can impose kind of a triple of their damage. They can recover it, plus some additional fines. It depends. I mean, this is probably, it depends on who is going to get those fines, and it's still, we don't know what will come out of the probe. Many probes don't end with a formal imposition of something like that. But, at the moment we talk about risk, and these are the risks that they are facing, actually.
Can I just talk about what is happening with the German economy, what's happening with the DAX, which is doing very well right now, and the corporate stories that we're focusing on a kind of bottom-up kind of a basis. So you've got SAP, which has been a star performer this year. As you say, now there's a little bit of a black spot against it, potentially in the form of this. We've got VW. So Volkswagen today is starting to talk with its unions. We don't know how that's going to go. We've got the Commerzbank story unraveling as well. We don't know how that's going to work out. How does the corporate story in aggregate feed into the kind of the national macro story in Germany right now? Can I relate what is happening with the macro data, the DAX performance, and the single stock story together? What is the picture coming out of Germany in totality?
Yeah, I think Germans are really in a bad mood at the moment. Despite as you said, the good performance of the DAX, you have these big kind of light companies that stand for what Germany is proud of its economy, especially VW, but also SAP. SAP is one of the big tech players Germany or Europe as a whole has, as compared to the US. So it's kind of getting people really in a bad mood and looking. And Germans are particularly good at saying, oh, everything's bad, oh, things are turning bad. We are really on a bad track, and At the moment, a lot of stuff is hitting the fan here, and people are really kind of worrisome. And this is kind of, we have VW, we have Commerzbank, now SAP on top. It's like every morning you wake up and say, what's going on now? So it's troublesome, especially for the government, which is kind of in a kind of bad position anyway. And now they are also having one trouble after the other on the corporate side. It's really not fun.